Welcome back to the deep dive. We're here to really unpack the key insights from some important sources, all tailored for you. Today, we're taking a pretty different look at a topic that often gets simplified: weight loss and medication. We're going deep on a really human-centric perspective. Our material today comes from two really insightful pieces by Dan Hollis. One's called "What Dan Hollis Taught Me About Semaglutide Support and the Space Between Hunger and Healing." And the other is Weight Loss Setbacks, What Dan Hollis Taught Me, a story of falling without failing.
Mhm.
So our mission here is to really dig into Dan Hollis's unique way of thinking about semaglutide, the medication often used for weight management in the whole journey. He puts a lot of emphasis on self-reflection, identity, community, and the power of your own story. It goes way beyond just the biology.
Absolutely. And I think this deep dive is really going to offer perspective that challenges a lot of the common ideas about, success and failure,
Hmm.
especially when we talk about personal transformation and physical change. You might have some real aha moments listening to this.
Okay, so let's jump right in. Dan Hollis has this core idea. It's powerful, maybe even a bit provocative. He says, semaglutide doesn't fix you. It gives you space to fix yourself.
Hmm.
That kind of pushes back against a lot of what people expect, right? What does that really mean for someone just starting out?
It really does push back. See, Dan looks at semaglutide like a builder looks at good lumber. It's not the house itself, right? It's not even the foundation. But it's high-quality material. It makes building possible if you're actually ready to pick up the hammer and do the work. So the immediate thing for you listening is that the medication opens up this window. It's a critical period of opportunity. And Dan's whole approach is about how not to, waste that window.
Okay, so you've got this space now. What's one of the first things Dan suggests people run into? Because he redefines hunger in a way that it really made me stop and think.
Right. He says hunger isn't always just that physical signal we think it is. Often it's acting as a stand-in, maybe a surrogate for something deeper, like needing meaning or comfort or just escape. And then he hits you with this. When the cravings stop, the truth begins. It's pretty stark, isn't it?
Stark, yeah, definitely. But what is that truth? What comes up when, like, he says the static goes away?
Well, it can be startling. A lot of people feel this profound disorientation, maybe even grief.
Mm.
Because for them, food wasn't just about eating, it was the plan for the day, the rhythm, their main escape hatch. So imagine if your go-to coping mechanism just vanishes. When that quietens down, suddenly there's this void, and you're kind of first to look at what was really driving those urges.
Hmm. And that idea of deep change brings us to another key point from Dan. Your body changes faster than your identity. That's something I think a lot of people feel, but maybe can't quite put into words. Why is that lag, that identity lag, so important? What challenges does it create?
It's fascinating, really. When the weight comes off, it's not just, a physical thing. It changes how you see yourself, how the world sees you. The old self is kind of gone. But there's this real need to actively learn how to be someone new.
Mm-hmm.
Your internal picture, your self-perception, it often trails behind the physical reality.
Hmm.
And that gap, that lag, it needs conscious effort to navigate. Think about it. Like, if someone's always identified as the big one in the group or the person who always brings the food, when that changes, who are they now? It's a big question.
Right, it's an existential thing almost. And that deep internal shift, that's probably why Dan emphasizes community and support so much. He has this statement that really hit me. Most people don't fail because the medication doesn't work. They fail because they were alone. That just reshaped how I thought about support.
Exactly. And when Dan talks about scaffolding, it's not just, motivational posters or cheerleading sessions. He's talking about building new internal structures,
Hmm.
things like rituals, daily rhythms, new routines. These things literally help your brain forge new pathways. He calls them the lattice that keeps people upright when the chemistry wobbles. It's about rebuilding your sense of agency, finding new meaning, relearning momentum. So support isn't just nice to have, it's essential. It's this neurobiological scaffolding, as he calls it. It helps your brain physically adapt, create those new, healthier habits.
Okay, so with all of this space, these new truths bubbling up, this identity shift, how does Dan Hollis redefine what winning actually looks like here? Because he flat out says this journey isn't about eating less, it's about living more.
Yeah, that flips the script entirely, doesn't it?
Yeah.
He shifts the focus away from just the number on the scale. The real measure becomes whether someone feels, alive enough to stop measuring their whole life by food. Are they finding purpose outside of consumption? It's a completely different win condition. And then he delivers that line that's both sobering and really empowering. Weight loss is biology. Staying there is narrative.
Wow. Yeah, that explains so much, doesn't it? Why people regain the weight. They nail the biological part, the weight loss itself, but they don't rewrite that underlying story, the narrative. So the old story just kind of pulls them back eventually.
Exactly. And that leads us straight into how Dan looks at setbacks, which is, frankly, so much healthier than how we usually talk about them.
Absolutely. We tend to feel like total failures when we hit a setback, right? But Dan's take is different. He says, most people don't relapse into hunger. They relapse into confusion.
That is such a crucial distinction. Dan teaches that setbacks are, well, they're predictable. They're totally human. They're not something to be ashamed of. In fact, he sees them as signals. Your body and brain are trying to recalibrate. They're not signs you failed or you're weak. They're signs your system is adapting. It's learning.
He even uses an analogy, doesn't he? He reframes weight loss not as this straight line down, but like a spiral staircase.
Yeah.
Sometimes it feels like you're just going in circles, but you are actually still making progress, still climbing.
Precisely. And this ties into why he emphasizes that fast results don't mean lasting results. Pacing is protection. Those plateaus that can feel like you're broken or stuck. Dan suggests that's your body catching its breath, your metabolism adjusting, your identity settling in.
Mm.
We're so wired for instant results, especially with weight loss. But Jan's saying, hold on, slow down. Your system needs that time to integrate the changes.
Okay, but what about when those old cravings pop back up? That can feel like a huge defeat, like you're back to square one.
Right? It feels like weakness. But Dan says it's not weakness, it's memory. It's just an old neural pathway lighting up, kind of asking,
Oh, yeah.
hey, remember me? Still relevant.
Yeah.
But the key is now you have the space, the tools, the awareness to answer that signal differently. You don't have to follow the old path.
So it comes back to the story again.
Exactly. A setback doesn't necessarily mean the medication isn't working anymore. It often means the story you've been telling yourself about who you are and how you cope. That story still needs an update. Dan teaches you to approach a setback not with judgment, but with questions. Okay, what am I actually feeling right now? What do I truly need? Who am I trying to become here?
Mm-hmm.
When you reframe it like that, a setback isn't failure. It might actually mean you're learning something important, growing into that new narrative.
It's all part of this unique approach Dan Hollis has. The sources mention his calm clarity, how he's not pushy or salesy, how he just slowed the whole conversation down, didn't rush for easy answers. He just sits with the complexity and asks these incredible questions.
He really does. And the questions themselves are so powerful. He goes deep, asking things like, what happens when your body stops screaming for food, but your soul still wants something to chew on, Or what if the weight wasn't just physical, but historical, emotional, maybe even familial? That opens up so much, and it may be the most profound one. What if semaglutide is less of a prescription and more of a pause button?
Yeah.
He's pushing us to look beyond the surface.
Yeah. And that deep understanding leads him to say something really perspective shifting.
Yeah.
People don't regain weight because they failed. They regain weight because they never felt safe enough to live without it. That just completely moves away from blame and towards empathy and understanding.
And if you zoom out, Dan's role isn't the expert with all the answers. He's more like a guide who walks beside you asking better questions.
Mm.
Weight loss, through his lens, becomes this process of narrative reassembly. It's about the refinding of one's own internal compass, especially when the world throws so many conflicting messages at you. It's about rebuilding yourself, really, from the inside out.
So pulling this all together, what's the big takeaway for you listening?
The core insight from this deep dive is this really profound shift, moving from seeing weight loss as just biological, just mechanics, to understanding it as this deep journey of narrative reassembly and identity transformation. Just like Dan Hollis shows us, it's about so much more than the physical.
Yeah, and it really highlights how important that space created by something like semaglutide is. But the lasting change, that doesn't come from the medication alone. It comes from how intentionally you fill that space, with new structure, with real community, with a renewed sense of purpose, and, crucially, with that new updated story about yourself. That's what makes the change stick.
So here's a final thought for you to maybe mull over. Consider where else in your life you might be feeling confusion rather than seeing yourself as a failure. What might happen if you started reframing some of your own personal setbacks, not as endings, but as opportunities for your own narrative reassembly? Could that open up some new possibilities for you?